It was a mild summer evening and my husband was out of town on a business trip. I was 42, a freelance writer, and enjoyed the tranquility of our suburban neighborhood. Our house was nestled in a quiet cul-de-sac surrounded by friendly neighbors. I had always felt safe here. However, one night alone would unravel a terrifying secret that changed everything. I had spent the day working on my latest project and decided to unwind with a glass of wine and a good movie. The house was silent, save for the occasional hum of the air conditioner. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the yard, I settled into the couch with my drink and remote. The movie was a gripping thriller and I was completely absorbed in the plot. The hours slipped by unnoticed until I glanced at the clock and realized it was nearly midnight. I decided to call it a night and head upstairs to bed. As I turned off the TV and gathered my things, I noticed a light flickering in the house across the street. It was the home of Mr. and Mrs. Jensen, an elderly couple who kept to themselves. The flickering light seemed odd, like a candle or a flashlight moving around. Curiosity piqued, I walked to the window for a closer look. The light continued to flicker erratically, and I thought I saw a shadow moving behind the curtains. It seemed unusual for the Jensens to be up so late. I shrugged it off, assuming they were having trouble with their power. I locked up the house, checked the doors and windows, and headed upstairs. As I climbed into bed, my phone buzzed with a text message. I groaned, thinking it was probably a spam message, but my heart skipped a beat when I saw it was from an unknown number. "Are you alone?" My breath caught in my throat. I replied, "Who is this?" A few moments later, another message appeared. "Watch out for your neighbors." A chill ran down my spine. I tried to rationalize it, telling myself it was just a prank. But the uneasy feeling persisted. I blocked the number and put my phone on the nightstand, hoping to forget about it. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to shake off the unsettling text. Just as I was about to drift off to sleep, I heard a noise outside. It sounded like a car door closing. I got up and peeked out the window. A dark sedan was parked across the street in front of the Jensens' house. I watched as a tall figure emerged from the car and walked up to their front door. They didn't knock or ring the bell. Instead, they pulled out a set of keys and let themselves in. My mind raced with questions. Who was this person? And why did they have keys to the Jensens' house? I debated whether to call the police, but without any real evidence, I felt foolish. Maybe the Jensens had a visitor, or perhaps it was a relative. I decided to keep an eye on the house and see what happened next. Hours passed, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. I finally drifted off to sleep, only to be awakened by the sound of a loud thud. I bolted upright in bed, heart pounding. The noise had come from outside, but I couldn't see anything from my window. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, explaining the situation to the operator. They assured me they would send an officer to check on the Jensens' house. I waited anxiously, watching from the window. The police arrived within minutes, 2 officers approaching the house with flashlights. They knocked on the door, but there was no response. After a few moments, they entered the house, and I saw their flashlights moving through the rooms. I watched nervously, my mind racing with possibilities. Finally, one of the officers emerged and walked over to my house. I met him at the door, my heart pounding in my chest. "Is everything okay?" I asked, my voice shaking. The officer looked grave. "We found Mr. and Mrs. Jensen inside. They're unharmed, but they were tied up and locked in a closet. They said someone broke in earlier this evening." My blood ran cold. Who would do such a thing? "We're not sure yet, but it seems the intruder was looking for something specific. Did you notice anything unusual tonight?" I told him about the flickering light, the car, and the mysterious figure with the keys. The officer nodded, taking notes. "Thank you for your help. We'll be patrolling the area and investigating further." The next morning, I couldn't shake the events of the previous night. I went to check on the Jensens, bringing them some coffee and pastries. They were shaken, but grateful for my concern. Days turned into weeks, and the mystery remained unsolved. The police continued their investigation, but no leads emerged. The Jensens installed a security system, and the neighborhood grew more vigilant. I never received another text message from the unknown number, but the memory of that night haunted me. I became more cautious, always checking my surroundings and locking my doors. The neighbor's secret is a chilling reminder that even in the safety of our homes, danger can lurk close by. My story serves as a warning to stay vigilant and trust your instincts. Sometimes, the most terrifying threats come from those we least suspect. It was a quiet Thursday evening, and my parents had gone to a late-night event, leaving me alone in our suburban home. I was 29, an accountant by profession, and enjoyed the occasional solitude. That night, however, would forever change how I felt about being home alone. I decided to spend the evening catching up on some work and then treat myself to a relaxing bath. The house was eerily quiet, with only the faint hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the wooden floors. After finishing my work, I ran a hot bath, adding some lavender-scented bubbles to help me relax. As I soaked in the tub, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. Little did I know, this calm would soon be shattered. Just as I was about to get out of the bath, my phone rang. I jumped, the sudden noise startling me. I quickly grabbed a towel and wrapped it around myself before answering. The caller ID showed an unknown number. I hesitated for a moment before answering. "Hello?" I said, my voice echoing slightly in the bathroom. There was silence on the other end. I repeated my greeting, but still, no response. Just as I was about to hang up, I heard a faint whisper. "I'm watching you." My heart skipped a beat. I hung up the phone, my hands trembling. I tried to convince myself it was just a prank call, maybe one of my friends trying to scare me, but the uneasy feeling lingered. I dried off and dressed quickly, feeling more vulnerable than ever. I decided to distract myself by watching some TV. As I settled on the couch trying to focus on the screen, my phone rang again. The same unknown number flashed on the screen. I didn't want to answer, but curiosity got the better of me. I picked up the call and listened. "Why did you hang up on me?" the voice said, clearer this time, but still eerily calm. "Who is this?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. "You'll find out soon enough," the voice replied before the line went dead. Panic started to set in. I double-checked all the locks on the doors and windows, ensuring everything was secure. I even peeked outside, but there was no sign of anyone. An hour passed without any more calls. I started to relax, convincing myself it was just a prank. But then, the phone rang again. This time, I let it go to voicemail. Almost immediately, I received a notification that I had a new voicemail. With shaking hands, I played the message. "I can see you. You look scared." I felt a chill run down my spine. I looked around the room, trying to spot any hidden cameras or signs that someone was watching me. But there was nothing. I decided to call the police. I explained the situation to the dispatcher, who assured me they would send someone to check on me. As I waited, I received another call. I didn't want to answer, but something compelled me to. "Why did you call the police?" the voice asked, sounding almost amused. "Leave me alone," I shouted, my voice cracking. The voice laughed softly. "I'll see you soon." I hung up and waited by the door, my heart pounding. The police arrived within minutes, 2 officers stepping inside to check the house. They found nothing unusual and suggested it was just a prank call. They promised to patrol the neighborhood for the rest of the night. Feeling somewhat reassured, I thanked the officers and watched them leave. As soon as they were gone, my phone rang again. This time the number was blocked. With a mix of fear and anger, I answered. "Enjoying your night alone?" the voice taunted. "Who are you? What do you want?" I demanded. The voice didn't answer my question. Instead, it said, "Look outside." I hesitated, but eventually made my way to the front window. The street was empty, save for a few parked cars. Then I noticed a figure standing under a streetlight, barely visible in the dim light. The figure slowly raised a hand and waved. I backed away from the window, my mind racing. I called the police again, telling them about the figure outside. They arrived quickly, but by the time they searched the area, the figure was gone. The police took my report seriously this time, promising to keep a close watch on my house. They suggested I stay with a friend or relative for the night, but I didn't want to leave my home. I spent the rest of the night wide awake, every creak and groan of the house making me jump. The calls stopped, but the fear lingered. I never found out who the caller was or why they targeted me. The police continued their patrols for the next few days, and eventually, the fear subsided. But I was never the same. I became more cautious, always looking over my shoulder, always checking the locks. The phantom caller had left a permanent mark on me. It was a chilly autumn evening, the kind that made you want to curl up with a blanket and a good book. My partner had gone on a business trip, leaving me alone in our cozy suburban home. We had recently moved in, and I was still getting used to the creaks and groans of the old house. I was 35, an avid reader, and enjoyed the occasional solitude. Little did I know that this night would turn my love for quiet evenings upside down. I decided to make myself a cup of hot chocolate and settle into the couch with a thriller novel I had been eager to read. The house was silent, save for the soft hum of the heater and the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. The warmth of the hot chocolate and the engrossing plot of the book made me feel comfortable and safe. As the evening wore on, the wind picked up, rattling the windows. I was used to the sound by now. Our neighborhood was known for its windy nights. I pulled the blanket tighter around me and continued reading. Around 10 p.m. I heard a noise outside, like someone was walking around. I paused, straining to hear over the wind. It sounded like footsteps on the gravel path that led to our front door. My heart rate quickened, but I tried to rationalize it. Perhaps it was just a neighbor walking their dog or someone passing by. Curiosity got the better of me, and I put my book down. I got up and cautiously approached the front window, peeking through the curtains. The porch light was on, illuminating the empty yard. I couldn't see anyone. I shrugged it off, convincing myself it was nothing. I returned to the couch, trying to regain my focus on the book. Just as I started to relax, the landline phone rang, startling me. We rarely used the landline. It was mostly for emergencies. I hesitated for a moment before answering. "Hello?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. There was a brief silence on the other end, followed by a low, raspy voice. "Why are you alone?" A chill ran down my spine. "Who is this?" I demanded, but the caller hung up. My mind raced. Was it a prank? Had someone seen me alone and decided to play a cruel joke? I tried to dismiss the thought, but couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I decided to double-check all the locks on the doors and windows, ensuring everything was secure. As I moved through the house, turning on lights, I noticed something strange. The lights in the living room flickered for a moment before going out completely. I stood there in the dark, my heart pounding. The rest of the house still had power, so it wasn't a blackout. I grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer and went to check the circuit breaker. Everything seemed fine. I flipped the switch for the living room lights, and they came back on. Relieved, but still uneasy, I returned to the living room. Just as I sat down, the lights flickered again, and this time, I heard a soft, scraping sound coming from the back door. I grabbed the flashlight and cautiously made my way to the back door. My hand shook as I reached for the doorknob. I hesitated, then quickly unlocked and opened the door, shining the light outside. There was nothing but darkness and the rustling of leaves. As I was about to close the door, I noticed a small piece of paper taped to the door frame. My heart raced as I pulled it off and unfolded it. The note read, "I'm closer than you think." Panic set in. I quickly locked the door and backed away, my mind racing with fear. Was someone outside watching me? I ran to the living room and called my partner, but the call went straight to voicemail. I left a shaky message asking them to call me back as soon as possible. I decided to call the police. I explained the situation and they assured me they would send someone over. As I waited, I tried to stay calm, but the feeling of being watched grew stronger. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a shadow pass by the front window. I turned quickly, but there was no one there. I grabbed a kitchen knife and stood in the middle of the living room, every muscle tense. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, I heard a knock on the door. I cautiously approached and peered through the peephole. It was a police officer. I quickly opened the door, relief flooding through me. The officer was kind and understanding. He and his partner checked the perimeter of the house and found nothing unusual, except for a set of muddy footprints near the back door. They couldn't determine who left them, but assured me they would patrol the area throughout the night. The officers left, and I was alone again, but this time I felt a sense of security knowing they were nearby. I tried to relax, but the events of the night played over and over in my mind. Who had called me? Who had left the note? I never found out. The calls stopped and the strange occurrences ceased, but the experience left a lasting impact. I became more cautious, always checking the locks and being wary of my surroundings.